God protects us from nothing, but sustains us in everything. And then all of a sudden they feel, especially if they're being held in a community of tenderness, then they start to feel the sustenance of God that is utterly reliable. So it's not about how things turn out or whether, somebody lives through a car accident or not. Because that's a setup all the time, because homies will always send me pictures, a text that has, look at this car. I was in this car with my 2 kids and not a scratch. And then they'll say God is good. And then I think, and if one of the kids had died, what would you have to think about God? It's a setup. As opposed to say God sustains me and carries me through everything. And things happen in life. Cancer, car accidents, drunk drivers, poverty, things happen. And we're meant to roll up our sleeves to kind of help each other. But God, I learned that early on when mothers would scream at the sky and say, why did God take my son from me? And I just said, well, God didn't. Some poor kid with a gun did. And so, there's that notion that where people feel like they have to choose between an all-powerful or an all-loving God. Whereas I think you choose a God whose power is in this sustaining love, no matter how things turn out.
Wow, that's very profound, that God sustains us, doesn't protect us from suffering, but he'll sustain us in all of our suffering. And so when somebody asks, so why didn't God protect me? Then what do you say?
I don't think God is too busy loving us to protect us. Now that may not be satisfying to people, but it's a love that sustains, which means it's going to carry us through. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I asked a homie, how do you pray? And he thinks for a second. He goes, sometimes I just sit there and I say, hold me. And then he looked at me and he said, because we're not very good at holding ourselves, which is of course true. But then we choose, as that homie had said in the email, we choose to be the arms of God in the world, which is what God hopes will happen. So, but then you don't, here at Homeboy, we don't do success or failure. We don't do disappointment. All we try to do is a consistent love with a no matter whatness. No matter what they do, no matter what they say, our response will be love. We're not trying to create a behaving community, but a community of cherished belonging. Mm-hmm. And so we don't ever withdraw, because our God never withdraws.
Yeah. No, that's really good. I love the quote you did of Mother Teresa, or Saint Teresa of Calcutta. If we have no peace, it is because we have forgotten that we belong to each other.
Yeah.
Hence part of your cherished belongings. So here's a question. You had mentioned that you buried 263 homies, and probably some of those homies were killed by other homies that you knew. Yeah. And when I think of that Bible verse of Galatians 6:9, do not be weary in doing good. How do you keep on keeping on, Father Greg? That it's got to be like, oh no, another one got shot, or another one did the shooting, or another one left Homeboy Industries. How do you not fall into despair or depression, but not grow weary in doing good.
Yeah, I think if it's about me, I will grow weary. If it's about success, be prepared to be weary. But you don't go to the margins to make a difference. You go to the margins so that the people at the margins make you different, so that they can reach you, and so that your heart can be altered. And that's the hope, is that somehow, you can be anchored in the present moment and delight in the person in front of you. And then you breathe in the spirit that delights in your being, and then you breathe that spirit out into the world, and that's exhilarating. And so, but it's depleting if you make it about yourself. If you go to the margins to fix or save or rescue people, then it's about you. And it's just a matter of time that you will burn out. But there is no burning out if you say it's not about me, and I'm just going to go to the margins to receive people and let people reach me. And then it's about us. As long as it stays about us, there's no burnout. There's exhaustion, but there's no depletion. And I think that's important in ministry, because when people burn out, it's not because they're very, very compassionate. It's because they've allowed the ministry to become about them. And it can't ever be. Now, that's not to say, it has to be about God. That's not what God is hoping for. God is hoping that it be about kinship and connection and God's dream come true. But it can't be about a tally sheet and evidence-based outcomes and how many successes did you have this week, And then that is about you, and that won't ever be replenishing. Oddly, you think it will be initially, especially as things are if things are going well, but it doesn't prepare you for the time when things will inevitably go poorly.